So,
No, just get started.
just getting started. Welcome. Okay. Hope everybody's got little snacky things. Everybody. So there's something for everybody. Alright, a bit about myself. I am 33. I have written 12 books, 4 of which are on the Google Play Store. So I like to think I know a little something about writing. Been writing since I was probably 8 or 9 years old. Just kind of knew it was something that I wanted to pursue, and I have. So that's pretty much that. Just always enjoyed writing, always enjoyed the thrill of creating new characters and moving on and, you know, getting in touch with all that. So then we'll go into the introduction to writing, and the writing form really has been around since the dawn of time. Even cavemen have, you know, used the medium of writing in other animal blood on cave walls. Between now we have our tablets, our pens and paper, and all other kinds of mediums, typewriters from back in the 50s and 60s, and it's just something that writing really transcends time, and it's a great thing to learn a lot about yourself and to really get involved with and show others what you can do. And as we get started, don't rush. When you sit down to write something, don't rush yourself. Give yourself plenty of time. Just sit there, think about what you want to do. Have your food ready. Have your glass of wine ready if that's what you like. And I like a little Chardonnay myself. Just have it. Have everything sitting there. Have everything nice, sitting there, ready to go. Just kind of take it easy. Sit there, think about what you want to do. A lot of writing is really just sitting in a chair, kind of looking at a screen sometimes. So I'm a true testament to that. I'll sit there, I'll write a whole paragraph, I'll be like, nope, don't like it, delete. And then it lets you know what you do and don't like when you see it on the paper. It sounds good when you write it and you're like, wow, this is terrible. Then you just take it away, and it lets you know where you're at in your writing ability too. Have a clear mind. Like I said, if the Chardonnay's calling for you, have a little sip of that to get kind of in the mood. Don't be discouraged if the writing process feels daunting at any time. Just like, oh, I don't want to write today. Don't write. You don't want to make it into a chore. You want to make it into something that's enjoyable. I would like to one day quit my job that I'm at and really pursue a creative writing career with all ages. One day, I promise myself, one day I will do that. Have all materials ready, pen, paper, mechanical pencil, whatever hat you have. Music can be beneficial to the writing process. Instrumentals are a great tool. If you've got a little bit of light music in the background working on your stuff, seems to work for you, rock it out. Music can be great. I wouldn't do anything like TV, like you kind of watching Game of Thrones while you're writing. That can get distracting, and you can really break up your writing flow. So if you got a good TV show, and I know I like my TV, so when you got a good TV show happening, watch that, and then get back into the writing. So
just like a little classical music, real soft.
Yeah. In fact, Canon and D is what works for me too. Little Beethoven, little Mozart, any of that. Yeah.
Works. Opens the mind. Seems to open your mind.
It really does. It really opens up the creative juices too. When you play something like that doesn't have really lyrics, because lyrics can kind of muddle the writing process too. So just straight instrumentals are a great way to go. Definitely. Then it says, is everything ready? Pen, pencil, notebook. Is the tablet, PC, laptop fully charged? Music at a reasonable volume. You don't want it too loud. You want it at a good even rate. And then let us begin. Material and writing ideas and their origins, direct versus indirect. Direct meaning like you're kind of thinking of it on the spot, like, okay, I need to make a character, and then you create one. or indirect being, you're just walking along the street, and it hits you. Would be direct and indirect. And of course, what makes a good book? All these components that come together to make really the story come alive. And plot, of course, is a major one. I like to watch for pacing, so that I'm not really, super fast in the beginning, and then it slows way down, and then it speeds up again. Unless the book calls for it, I try to keep it at a pretty even pace. Characters and character development. Pretty much, I like to see characters in especially like an adult book, kind of go from like a low pivotal moment to something where they've really learned something. And then how original is the piece? Like you get stuff like 50 Shades of Grey that has recently come out, and that's a lot of people clamoring over that. Twilight, things like that. A lot of the Stephen King works back in the 80s. Really original works like Pet Sematary. Set pieces. That's a big one for me. Set pieces I call what I call the meat and potatoes of your book. Like when you're writing a book, you want people to remember specific parts of that. That's what I call the meat and potatoes. Those are your set pieces. Like you had a great book, you want about every tenth of it to have a really great set piece. One of my books called Finding Carly Joe has a lot of those in it. And it's really great to put those in there because it's an emotional attachment to the reader, and it's really, really relatable. Like in my book, Finding Carly Joe, I have a girl who went missing in 1987 at the age of 6. And as the book opens, a guy named Alex, who was about 18 to 21, they're walking along, and his girlfriend, soon-to-be fiance, says, "Hey, I know you want to marry me, but," and she trails off, and she notices that a lot of the things he throws away, his apple that's half eaten, he's thrown away, his soft drink that he's only drank a couple sips, he throws away. She says, "I don't want you to throw away this relationship. I don't want to get married to you. I know we're going to get married, but I don't want to get married to you and have you throw it away. So I want to have you do something for me where you start something and finish it." And he inadvertently goes back home, and in his house, in his closet, there's a pink lockbox in there that says CJD on the underside of it, written in marker decades ago. CJD is Carly Joe Devereaux, who is the 6-year-old who went missing back in 87. So he says, all right, this is easy. I can see it through. I'm going to find out who this is, give it back to its original owner, and we'll be good to go. Seems good, too good, right? He ends up finding out that she went missing. And upon further investigation, that not only did she go missing, but there's really strange anomalies in her disappearance. And a lot of the meat and potatoes is his girlfriend finds out that he's, quote, looking for another girl. Well, he's just looking for the missing girl, but that's of course not how she hears it. So that becomes a whole other plot point. And she starts worrying, oh, he's looking for somebody else to replace me with. While he's trying to journey on, and he's looking for this girl that, she wants him to find. Kind of. So now he's looking for this girl, and he's trying to finish out what she wants him to do. So as he looks for this girl and looks for her, he gets really emotionally attached to this case. Like, where's this girl at? Come to find out that this girl was the product of a rape of what would have been her uncle and her mother. So it's basically like an inbred child. That one of the little memos in the book is the school keeps calling. What do we tell them? Because they're looking for a blood test and a birth certificate, which they never had because they had this birth at home. So they're trying to figure out where this child came from, and they're trying to keep it secret. So one of the things they ended up doing was killing this girl. So now the guy's really invested. He's like, where's this girl? Where's this? And he's looking for her everywhere. He's bothered by it, and he wants to find the answer. So He's looking everywhere to find Carly Joe. It's called Finding Carly Joe. So he's looking and looking, and he gets back home and he's just like, I don't know what to do anymore. And he kicks the washer that's down in his basement. The washer moves. There's a crawl space in there. He says, no. Pulls out his phone, he turns on the flashlight app and shines it in there. There's a little skeleton in there with a Girl Scout uniform on. He just sobs and he just hits his knees and he lays back into the wall. And he's like, oh no! He grabs by the feet and pulls out. And it says Carly Joe on the name tag. And he just loses it. And it's one of those pivotal emotional points in the book where it's just like, oh man! It's like you looked so long and you looked for this girl and this is what you got. This is, you got an outcome. It's not really the one you wanted, but it's great because it keeps it real. And it keeps the reader in suspense. It keeps the reader enjoying the content, like, oh my goodness, this is weird, this is crazy. All kinds of emotions that are building up on the reader end. And then just to hit that last home run, what I did was at the discovery of this Carly Joe. He's just sobbing. Phone call comes in on his cell phone. He answers it. And it's his girlfriend. He puts it up to his ear, and she says, did you find the girl you were looking for? He says, yes. She hangs up on him, and then it goes to her. It goes to the shot of her sitting in the bathroom, looking at an abortion pamphlet, and then looking at a pregnancy test that's positive, and we fade to black. It's one of those things that's just like, no! He had it all, and that's how I ended it. And a lot of people did like it. A lot of people hated it. They're like, why would you end it that way? You could have put them together. But it's just like, it's so great because putting them together has kind of become cliche. It's just like, okay, they're together now. Let's close the book. The way I like to end things is just like totally unexpected. Like, he finished. It makes the reader angry for the guy. It's like, he finished the job. This is what he set out to do. She said, finish. Do something for me, see something through, which he did, and he still didn't get the result that he was hoping for. That's kind of life for you. So that's a book that I wrote.
But it leaves the reader to use their imagination to all sorts of different outcomes in the life.
Yeah. And then it just closes with her. So did she get one or didn't she? And I just leave them hanging. And it's a really great way to do it.
Then you can always have a sequel, right?
Yeah. Always opening for a sequel. So how'd you think of that? So then somebody asked me, how do I know if I have a great idea for a fictional book? That was asked to me last night in a question forum. And I always look for what I call set pieces, the meat and potatoes, like I was telling you about. What I say is watch out for the curse of writing filler material, just like material just to write material, like plain dialogue that gets you nowhere, kind of that sort of thing. A great book grabs a hold of you in the first 5 minutes. If you can't, doing a fictional book, if you can't grab a hold of them in the first 5 minutes, you probably lost them. So you want to think of something that's really, really great to draw them in, and then kind of like think of it like Mortal Kombat. You grab them at the beginning and you just don't let them go, kind of thing. Make sure you're creating content that keeps your viewers interested, and continuing to read. Just keep them going. Keep writing good material that's fun to write. If you find your material is exciting to write, your reader will probably be pretty interested in whatever it is you're writing. So then there is that. So then
I have a question.
Yeah.
In that book, did you start out, when you said you draw the reader's attention in the first 5 minutes, did you start out with the couple walking?
Yeah.
That was the way you started?
Yep.
Okay.
They're in the park at the beginning of it, and it shows that he's holding an apple. He takes literally one bite, tosses it in the trash. And he's got his big old large soda pop from McDonald's. She's noticing this, and it's one of the things that I set up right away. That's called a setup. You let them know what the conflict is right away. You don't have to do that in every book, but it's a really great way to kind of get that lighter flicked. Let them know what they're dealing with. the reader. So, but I was curious what everybody wanted to all wanted to cover since we're on limited time. Because we got a whole lot of time. Let's see. What about like plot? We could even write something tonight. That doesn't matter. But I'm sure we could write a whole bunch of good stuff. But a good plot.
Who have you dealt with, just by yourself in terms of writing?
For the most part, yeah. Self-publication is a lot of what I do, and I don't know how I got noticed to be put on the Google store, but I've got 4 of them on there, and I have no idea how they got on there.
I'm not familiar with Google Store.
Mm-hmm. It's the online store that is provided by Google that does a lot of books, apps, video games. Of my 12, they selected 4.
Is that the only one out there that does that? I mean, are there others?
There's the Apple store too.
Yeah. No,
There's one through Amazon.
Yep.
okay.
Like the Kindle. Yep.
Yeah.
Kindle and all that.
Kindle's got it.
And I can help anybody that wants to write anything. This is just my life. This is just something that I've always enjoyed
So
doing.
you just submitted it, and then they.
Yep. I think they may have found it through Amazon.
Oh, okay.
They might have found it through Amazon. So I don't know if they're gonna upload any of my other work or not. But they've got 4 of them on there so
Did you
far.
start with Amazon? Or not?
I started with a company called Lulu, which I would write down. That's if you ever wanted to write a book that's between 100 and 130 pages, you can self-publish on that for. You can have a book in the mail, your own book in the mail. Just buy one for like $13.
That's how many pages?
About 130,
Pretty bad.
and that's with shipping too. So it's a really great resource.
Did you have to go out and get a publisher and stuff?
I had a publisher at the beginning in 2008 when I first started called Wheatmark. They published my first book called Hold On. That book was like 356 pages. And those books were in Barnes & Noble. And then there wasn't a whole lot of sales. I mean, they were on the shelves, but I didn't have like crazy sales because I started off with a debut book with pretty much no name recognition. So it was pretty much word of mouth, which is probably where we'll go with this the rest of the night. A lot of like that kind of publishing is going to be pretty much promote, and it's a lot of work. It's like an uphill battle. Not to dissuade anybody, because writing is awesome, but it is very much an uphill battle. I've been doing it. Let's see, 2008 I was 27, and I wanted to go further than what they were doing, and they were only giving me about 20 to 30% of what I was making, which is terrible. When you self-publish, you get all of it. The only kicker with that is you have to just promote. But now that we have social media, you can say, hey, I've got a book out now, and I can sell that book to anybody. You can make bundles, you can do things and get your book out there for, you could sell it to somebody for $13 to $15. Make yourself a couple of bucks a book, which isn't much, but once you start having a whole box of books and getting that name recognition, the books just fly. And I've had a lot of luck with that since I've got my books in the Google store now. So, but once you start writing, and I can help anybody with anything they want to do. I've been lucky and privileged enough to be able to have books selling among the best of the people that are writing these. So, anything I can do to help any of you is my honor.
It's nice to hear. Appreciate it.
So, just something I want to do.
Well, now, do you go through the same process when you submit your books? Do they critique them and send them back?
You can pay to have them do that, and it's way less than if you were sending them to real publishers. I've sent a lot of my stuff to real publishers, and it's really daunting when they send back, sorry, we're just not interested right now. I've gotten a lot of that, and it's really discouraging when you know you're writing to the best of your ability, and they're like, your content's just not very polished or very good. And I polish my stuff regularly, and these big time publishers want to have something that they can make a mint on. So it comes back and it's just like, you know what? I really could just self-publish and just make a lot of money. You can buy probably 50 books and get hefty discounts. And there's places that will let you do book signings and things like Sir Pizza in downtown Lansing. Any Bigby. There's a lot of places that you just call around. Everybody Reads is another one. Just call around and say, hey, I'd like to do a book signing. And a lot of the time they'll just say, yeah, we'd love to have fresh faces in here doing that.
Well, you make it sound so easy, but I'm sure you had some training. You went through courses, writing courses.
I did in college, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You took
Yep.
a writing.
Yep. I took a writing course in college for a year.
Is that all?
That was it. That was it. I'm just really lucky. I've just been writing since I was probably 9 years old and just kept at it.
Well, you know, there's one thing we think we know how to write, and then you look at it and somebody says,
Oh yeah.
but did you have a lot of people, I mean, critique you? I mean, did you tell them, hey, read this? Is it, or
Oh yeah.
how did you find out that you get this smooth?
All through high school, I was always I'd go to the copier and I'd copy something that I wrote and just hit the stapler on it and just pass them out, and people
Say,
just
read it?
we'll just read it in class. And I had an English teacher that really mentored me back in 7th grade, and I would show her stuff after class, be like, what does that look like? She's like, really good, you know, focus on some of the grammar stuff.
Yeah.
So I focused on a lot of that, cleaned up a lot of that, and I just got really lucky
There's
with
a way to present, you know, sentence structure and to make it
Mhm.
interesting and all, but you've learned that through trial and a little bit.
A lot of trial and error, yep. Lot of writing stuff that people said, oh, this is terrible, you know, clean it up, just to go back and polish it up, and then they said, you know, this is really, really good. It just takes a lot of focus and a lot of patience. So, yeah.
Are there books that you would recommend that guide you a little bit?
The Stephen King's Guide to Writing is really great. They also have that as an audiobook also.
Stephen King. Does that pertain just to fiction?
Mostly, yes.
Who was the they that you spoke about that critiques your
Um,
books?
And if you go to the website called Lulu, LULU.com, you can pay to have them, or I do it for free for you, even since you came out and saw me. But they have professionals that do critiquing and stuff that are on a publisher level, like real live publisher level, for like 165 or something like that. And I don't work for them or anything, so this is just from my experience with that. I did one of my books through them, and they did an awesome job. And then I like to do all my own book covers. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do that.
So that was fun.
A lot of the. Let's see here. Lost my train of thought. A lot of the people that I talk to love to write. And it's really good to get with people that also love to write. Like, get into a Facebook group or something. But one of the biggest things is definitely the promote. Put your write a really good rough draft, get it out there, and make it known.
Would you say the best way to start is to do a relatively short stories or essays or something like this, so that you
Get kind of the feel of it, yeah.
And you have people, you know,
Definitely.
review it and then check how you're going, instead of spending all this time writing this long.
Oh yeah,
and then
I totally agree.
Mistakes over mistakes and.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yep, I've started out that way too.
Okay.
Yep. I would, my process is I brainstorm. Like I'll have ideas come to me. And don't let me fool you, because I have mild dyslexia and ADHD really bad. So it's kind of I'm nobody special. It's actually really quite interesting that I've been able to actually start a book and finish it. Because when you have afflictions like that, it's really, really hard, and you got to really focus. And we have two little ones at the house. We have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. The 6-year-old likes to go do her own thing, but the 1-year-old needs the constant attention. So I don't get to write as much as I would like to. But when she falls asleep or takes a nap, that's the first time I run into the laptop and just start trying to hammer out what I call my bullet points, which is when I'm brainstorming my book, the first thing I'll do is I'll open like a Word document or like a text document, and I'll write the ideas that I have for the book, like how I want it to go. Like I might number from 1 to 100. If I say I'm going to start out with saying this book will be 100 pages, just as I guess. So I'll number from 1 to 100, and then I'll put in my set pieces, like the Finding Carly Joe. Number 1 would be walking in park / conflict. Then number 2 would be back at the house or something, or you just number each one that you would think that where the page would be, and then you can revise as you go. That's kind of my process. That's just kind of piece it out, and then number 100 would be, it's the end of the book. He just found her in the crawl space / emotional scene, and then you kind of doctor up a lot of the pent up emotion that has happened in that last scene and just kind of let it spill out. I don't know how any of you are with like when your fingers just kind of know where to go when you get really caught up in a scene and you just kind of sit there and you're just like kind of like I'm the vessel, and your fingers are they just kind of go all over the place and you just kind of let them. Once you kind of get into the groove of writing really deep like that, I think your fingers just kind of know where to go. But I don't know.
Is it somewhat like writing a speech too? I mean, you just let your thoughts run and get the main points.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you start assembling the points and
Yep.
putting them together to where they fit.
That's exactly right. I like to use a micro cassette recorder too. That's really great. When like my mind runs, like I said, I have the ADHD. So when my mind is running super fast, I can say it into something, and then I can just have it.
Say it.
And it's just right in my palm, and then I can replay it, and then just say, oh, what did I miss? Backtrack it a little bit, and then just write it out. It's a great way to do it. Especially when you get ahead of yourself, and you're just like, wait a second. I do that a lot. I do that a lot. It's easy to do. So.
I'm just curious. Does it help your ADHD when you're writing? I mean, is
It
when you keep busy with something?
It's great for the focus. That's one of the greatest things about writing for me is that when I sit down to write, I'm at my most focused. I don't get it. Like when I'm at work, I would like to say that I'm focused, but I feel like I'm all over the place when I'm doing something that I'm just kind of not really, I shouldn't say in the mood to do, but not in the mind to do. But when I'm sitting there in front of my laptop, the fingers just know where to go. When I get into a certain kind of writing, the fingers just know where to go, and I could sit there for an hour and a half, and the fingers would just go like this. And it's almost like I'm just sitting there waiting while the fingers are just doing their work, just like, okay, hold on, I'm getting there, I'm finishing it up, and then I can just go like this. And I can walk away from it for an hour, think of something else, come back and just start up again. Like, pulling the cord on a lawnmower that's got fresh gas in it. It's great. But yeah, I'm at my most focused when I'm just, sitting in front of my laptop writing a book. Especially when I know what my set pieces are, what the meat and potatoes are. So.
Do you usually come up with a title for your book before you start writing it?
Sometimes. Sometimes I'll think of something and I'll be like, oh, I really don't like that. And sometimes I'll just I'll call something untitled until I try to figure out more of what my meat and potatoes are. Like if I think I have a good idea, I'll put it in there. But then I'll start working on the book. I've done name changes like 20 times for a different book. And good question.
Do you put pictures in your books? And if you do, who would actually throw some of those pictures out there for you? Like, who would draw them up or?
I've got somebody that is a children's illustrator. That is Judy Sorrells. Hopefully I said that right, Judy. Her name is Judy Sorrells, and she is illustrating my book called Angel Wings. Angel Wings is a book about two parents that come into the their child's door to his room, and they're announcing that they're pregnant. And he's really excited because he's sure that it's a boy. So throughout the course of the pregnancy, all the family is very excited and they're ramping this up. And then one day the dad comes to get the boy from school, and it becomes not your typical children's book at that point. And he says, "Mom's at the hospital," and the boy says, "Cool, we're gonna go see the little one?" He says, "Not quite." And then it lets you know that Mom miscarried the baby. And some people said that was that it was a really bad misstep that I made, and I said, no, I said we miscarried back in 2012. This is an homage to that. So they end up discovering that she has lost this baby about 7-8 months in. And one of the Easter eggs for the book is that on each page there's something that there's an angel or a cross hidden on each page for you to find. So that's another great thing to do for the children's books too, is to put hidden things in there that adds kind of replay value to the books, instead of just, regular pictures on every page, which nothing wrong with that, but it adds a little something, kind of replayability, if you will. So there's that. But that book should be out this year too, and that's shaping up really, really nicely. So.
Do you have any suggestions on? I have an idea that I've been working on. When I found I don't know, it's just like I wrote out the basic idea in 2012, and then started a few months ago actually writing a story, but it's like a bunch of like a few paragraphs and then jump. I don't know where in the story, and I've tried, I started a chapter in it thing, this idea of where I'm trying to divide it up, and I start and write like 3 or 4 sentences and don't really have any idea of where to go, but I know it needs to go somewhere. How to fix that?
I'd be happy to help you.
I guess it's something like it would end up being either I make it a normal book, like that actually has words in it, or most of in school and all my papers, I always write them really short and just get to the point. And
Gotcha.
frustrated with adding words to have words.
Right. Words just to have filler in there. You mean maybe?
Yeah, and it's like I want to have it longer than I think it's like 2,000 words maybe. I'd like to have an actual story that longer than that, but I would also like it to go somewhere in places that I don't know what to say.
That's okay. I'd be happy to help you. I'll get you. Here, let's see. Throw my number on here for you. And we will hammer that out. There you go. My personal number. Just give me a call and we'll get that going for you.
How do you transition from place to place without rushing it?
Easy to do. I mean easy to do with rushing it. I know all about rushing it, and that's yeah. I know all about rushing it and ADD. So, I would just try to write out the places where you want to go on like the storylines and stuff, and just really kind of detail them out, so that it makes it easier for like you said, the jumps. So where you're like I would almost say like almost rate it like a movie script, like external, and then you're like in the back of the house, and then I make the mistake of doing a lot of that where I'm like, okay, they left, now they're somewhere else. It's like, wait, what'd you do? How did they get from there to there? It's an easy problem. It's so distracting. It's one of those things that's just like you gotta slow your mind down to do, and it's like I have trouble with that a lot. Yeah.
When you're talking about writing, a lot of the things that you say sound almost like you're visualizing a movie.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you do when you
Yes.
are writing?
Yep. Great question. When I'm writing my stuff, I try to see it. Like when I'm writing a scene, I might even draw like a floor plan so that I know where the sounds are coming from when people are talking. Like if you hear something above you, that's another great way to enhance your writing ability is if you drew out a floor plan, you can hear the sounds above you, behind you, like you're up you're underneath like a master bedroom, to where you go over to the stairs and you start coming up and she's like, no, hold on, I'll be down there in a minute. I did that in one of my newer ones called Passionate Kiss that's not out yet, where this woman named Meredith died because she had taken too many painkillers and due to nursing a broken leg. So our main male protagonist, whose name is Troy Jackson, he's over at Cassie's house, and he knocks on the door and she's still upstairs putting makeup on. So he's kind of waiting there for her, and while he's hearing the sounds of her idiot boyfriend lounging on the couch, crunching away at Cheetos while he plays Call of Duty, he's kind of treating him like a unwelcome guest, and he's just kind of standing there. It talks about the awkwardness of just kind of standing in the door jamb while you're waiting for somebody, and then you got this guy over here that's like totally oblivious to you, and you're trying to not to kind of invade their space, and she comes down, and it's safe to go. And then once you get to the car, you can take the dialogue and kind of ease up on that awkwardness and kind of make it back into a normal conversation, because now you're away from that awkward moment. It's fun. It's like almost like playing chess with words. I don't know. It might be a good way to describe it. I don't know, but a lot of the wordplay is really fun. It's just one of those things that's really exciting to me. I don't know. It's just a lot of fun.
I'm interested in the differences that we might find out through some book or such about the popularity of what type of stories are more popular.
Are more popular? Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. I mean, do they list them anywhere that are
Like
what sells?
like the New York Times bestseller type stuff.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
A lot of the women's stuff, like the Jodi Picoult and the like the Sandra Brown, and a lot of that type of stuff. 50 Shades of Grey, like I said, is really huge right now, especially with now that it has now a major motion picture. A lot of stuff that's kind of comes off as really cinematic, does really well.
Hello.
Come on in.
Got room?
Always.
Great.
Always.
I got a chair over here.
Okay. Always, we'd love to have you. But a lot of the things, I find that a lot of the things that are the New York Times bestsellers are the things that are very cinematic. Stories that have really good cinematic storytelling. Like strong male lead or female lead. Either really works. I mean, really, they're just about interchangeable. Really great story. Kind of like one of the great books that came out recently was like Water for Elephants, and that did really well too. Just really original storylines. Bridge to Terabithia. Stories that really kind of provoke the mind, if you will. Stories that kind of come out and really kind of embrace your mind a little bit. Which one? You know what? I love that book. That might actually be the book that got me writing back in the day. That book came out when I would say that book was brand new, or it was brand new to me in 5th grade, and I was 10. So that book may have come out even in the 70s. I'm a 1981 baby, but that book may have come out even in the 70s or late 70s. But I discovered it when I was in 5th grade, and it was required reading. I was like, oh, I don't want to read this. And somebody said, I already read this before. It's really good. Okay, so I'll read it. And it really just attacks the imagination and just kind of grabs a hold of you and doesn't let go. And that is, if you ever look up on my Facebooks, if you look in there, probably about 4 or 5 years ago maybe, if you look at Bridge to Terabithia, I wrote something on one of those posts about how it got me really hooked. And even if you read it now, it's like a children's book. But even if you read it now, there's so much in there that just really provokes the imagination. I mean, I saw the movie. That was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. But the movie was great too.
What was the name of the movie?
Bridge to Terabithia. Terabie.
It's close.
Thia.
It's close enough. I'll
Yeah.
get started.
Sorry, I write erotic, and there's a lot of adult language in there. I'm trying to be very careful. No. But
Oh yeah, how do you find the inspiration to find your ideas?
it just comes to me. Like I could be at work. And I'll think of something that's either really, really awesome or really crazy, and I write it down. I write it down right away. It's one of the biggest things. Always write it down, because if you don't write it down, you'll be like, oh, like ADHD, right? I have had that before where I didn't write something down where it was awesome, and it's like one of those things that's lost forever. It's just like it just pops into your head, and it's like it's either good or it's gone. And I've had so many good ideas that I just forgot to write down, and it's just like. But one of the things that's really good is when you have something that you've written, like the title down, you know some of the meat and potatoes, and that book just keeps hitting you with ideas. Oh, you should try this for the next scene. This would be great for the next scene, the next scene, next scene. Just like, oh my goodness. And then that story just kind of really comes into the forefront of your mind, and you're like, I seriously have to write this book. And that's when you know that book is going to do you really well. Just when you know, like, a lot of the set pieces are really just kind of coming together on their own. That's what a good book is. When you got a book that's just kind of literally writing itself. Like, you'll be able to sit there at your laptop, and the letters and the words just come right onto the screen. You're just a vessel sitting there, and your fingers are just hunting and pecking, and you're just like, all right, let's sit here for another hour doing this, and then you walk away. You throw your hands up, walk away, and you feel good. You hit the save button, feel good. Feel like you feel accomplished. That's one of the greatest things about being a writer, is having so much to accomplish. And I look back at all my 12 books that I've written. I love them all. They're all kind of like, they become kind of your children. You know, they become linked to you. You know, they're an extension of you. And it's really exciting to write something that you believe so highly in and highly of that you can't wait to go back into it, you know, some years later. Like, you know, this was really good. I want to go back and read it as though I hadn't written this, and go back into it and just fall in love with it. And then you realize you've written a really good book that a lot of other people are enjoying.
What do you do when you come up with a really good scene, but you don't know how to, like, get the plot so that it actually happens?
I can help you with that. I'll get you mine too. I'll get you mine too.
You have a card?
I actually have ran out, but I will get more in though.
And when you get more in, can we have one?
Yes, everybody.
All right.
Yep. Absolutely. But I'm willing to help anybody with anything. I've been privileged to get to where I'm at today, so as much as I can help anyone, it's my honor.
I'm noticing a similarity among all art forms, including writing and music.
Mm-hmm.
When you're putting music in the background with silence, you're writing it out of silence.
Mhm.
You use the listener uses their imagination.
Yeah.
If you play it at all at one tone or one at one volume, it doesn't mean anything. But you vary the volume,
Yep.
and then you get the feel for it. And
Yep.
the same thing with art is that you lead people around. I thought it was just painting, but you lead people around their eyes to get the effect you want.
Yep.
Probably the same thing with writing. Do you visualize the reader at all when you write, or is it just you?
I try to. I definitely am visualizing when I sit down. I don't know if it's like the ADHD or not, but when if I close my eyes just before I get to writing, I'll see them sitting in the car talking. You know, whether it's bright outside, whether it's the cover of night, and I'll see, is the car running? Are they listening to music in there? What are they talking about? And then depending on whatever the dialogue is and wherever they go from there, you can really kind of set the stage, almost like you're kind of almost writing a movie in a way, because you're watching everything, every little thing that you do is gonna change your outlook on like the characters. Are we gonna try to have characters that we care about? Are we gonna have throwaway characters like somebody that's just in one scene and then we kick him out in the next? Who do we want to interchange into the scenes that we're gonna make key players? Usually, when you want to construct a really great book, you might have a lot of people in there, but I try to keep it kind of thin, kind of purposely thin, just so that you can hash out each of the characters' personalities, rather than have 40 people that are in the book, which you're only going to remember the names of maybe 4 or 5 of them, and you end up getting a lot of the cardboard personalities in a lot of these books. It's just like just shut the book. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to get them to shut the book. You want to get them to keep going. And one of the best ways to do that is keep them interested. Keep them, put something in there that they're not expecting. Like in Passionate Kiss, I have when he goes to pick her up, she's heavily made up, and he says, you're barely almost 30, you're all made up, and he goes, I've never seen you within the last 5 years this made up. And they end up driving to Meredith's funeral, but on the way they make these stops because they're just driving, and she has no vehicle and he's got the brand new car, so they're using his vehicle to get there. Well, they end up having to hit a hotel, and she's with another guy and he's with someone else, so she goes to another room, but her room has a bad roach infestation. He's on an upper floor with no problems. So she comes to his room, and then he says, "I'm gonna watch TV and I'm gonna knock out." Okay. So she takes a shower and he lays there in the bed watching TV on his tablet. Well, she comes out of the shower with her, because he's turned this way. He's looking at his tablet, and it ends up being a dark scene on his tablet. And he can see the silhouette of her, and on his tablet he sees that her face is completely clean. She's got a black eye and a busted lip, and she's got a mark over here, and he's like, then he realizes as he's laying there, oh my goodness, her boyfriend beats her. Then you open up a whole new can of worms with, now there's a domestic violence issue in here. So instead of just, doing the traditional plot, okay, I'm picking her up, we're going to the funeral, and that's it. No, nothing in between, nothing interesting. It makes for a pretty boring ride, You don't, when you take a car trip from here to Florida, to Disney, you want to see the sights, you want to see things that are memorable. So you want to put memorable little chunks in there. So then at the end we have have him, profess his love to this girl that he's been kind of bonding with over the past week as they've driven to Florida, and he says, I'm going to take you away from here. And the guy says, you ain't going no place, and they kind of argue and fight, and they take the guy away for domestic violence. And he's just abusing this girl, and she's kind of been his little whipping post, and she kind of keeps it to herself. He says, I'm not going to let him hurt you anymore. And they kind of fall in love, and that's kind of the end of that one. But it's a lot of fun to write these, to write stuff that, traditional. If you were writing traditional horror, to me, I've written a lot of that, and it gets really boring. It's really stale because you have the traditional opening where the bad guy's doing something. Then you got to have 6 or 7 people in there, and then they've got to attack this guy, and they all end up getting whacked or whatever. And there's one girl hiding behind the little wooden crate, hits him with the axe, and then it's over. It's just gotten so contrived, and it's so expected, and there's just not really any talent behind it anymore. There's no finesse. It's the same old rehash every year. You know what's going to happen. Or the guy gets killed at the end. When I write the adult romance type stuff that I write, I can use just about any backdrop. I can use just about any style of content. and I can kind of throw the magic in there that really kind of what's the word? Just kind of gives new life to new style of books, instead of feeling like something that, oh, I've read this before. You know, I don't want my reader to say I've read this before, and it's the same old rehash of the same old thing. I can write it. I've got one that's a horror book that's really great, but I don't depend on that to be my meat and potatoes for my other offerings. You know, it's kind of like when you write a Dracula story. You know, everybody already knows what it's about, but different people have their different takes on how you present that material. You know, maybe it's a silver cross, or maybe it's a silver pendant, or something. You know, you can make variations in that, but to me, even that on writing horror has just gotten really boring. So I try my hand at other different kinds of genres just to kind of get a feel for different kinds of writing. It's a lot of fun.
Me personally, I have trouble with stopping a chapter and then wanting to pick up where I left off, but not knowing how to start.
You need a really good segue. Give me an example of what one of them would be, and then how you can like transition. You need a really good segue, like a really good transition. Like if you were at somebody's, like if the character was at somebody's house, and you wanted to chapter end and then chapter begin.
Yeah.
Maybe like the next scene would be, it's the following day. Or something. You could do like the following day. I should send you an ebook of one of the ones that I did called It Grew on the Vine. And it shows you how to like cut your chapters up from one to another. How they pick up kind of seamlessly. Depending on like the kind of material that you're writing, if you were writing like a kid's book or something, you wouldn't have to necessarily do it like to the letter. But like the older generation you go, the more you have to kind of close that gap. Yep. They're good. There's a reason that goldfishes and delicious.
Those I know mine.
Hey, I got a second bag. We can do this all night. But,
Like just had a title in mind and really not the story.
yeah, that can happen. And then you just kind of waiting for like the story to kind of develop.
Yeah.
I can help you with that too if you need. If you have like a certain kind of idea that you want to use, how we can just take the seed and kind of grow it. Can help you with that. Be happy to, since you came out to see me. So, yeah. What kind of book were you thinking of?
Well, just thinking out loud of times they come up with these, I think, wow, it's a really great title,
Mm-hmm.
but then I don't have a story.
We can work on that. We can do that.
Sometimes I feel it's like writing like jokes for TV or something. You know,
Mhm.
you got this great punchline, but you don't have anything to go with it.
Yeah, I got you. Been there, done that. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there an age bracket that are buying your books?
Right now I'm having a lot of the adult female demographic buying it, because I've gotten really lost in kind of writing the adult romance type stuff. Most notably my one called Human Contact and the other called Scent of Destiny. Human Contact was released in 2011. Scent of Destiny came out in 2012. Those are the last two that I've written and published at the moment. But I'm still always, like I said, working on new things. But I try to grow them. I don't try to rush them. I just try to write them as kind of slowly and coherently as I can, without letting any of the books get muddled up by any of the content of the other books, if that makes sense. Like if I was writing, like with writing Carly Joe, I want to make sure that content stays different from the adult romance kind of stuff, because it's not, they're not exactly interchangeable. So trying to keep the content the same for each individual book. That can be a little distracting.
As opposed to writing a series of
Right.
having continued.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Would you say we should only stick to one topic? Like, because what if we find like a new topic that we want to write, but we want to continue writing this?
I would just keep two separate things, and then always make up, like, if you have like a Word document or something, or like text document, make up multiple documents of all your stuff, and just keep writing your ideas as they kind of formulate in your head. Like book one. Okay, I just was thinking about this today, da 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 da, and then you go to your other one and write some more stuff that you thought about that might be good for that, and just kind of leave them in there in like little fragments. And sometimes when those fragments kind of stew in your head, those little fragments will grow into storylines, even little ones, and a little one can grow into a bigger one. So when you're always putting those in there, you might not think you're getting anywhere, but those little bits and pieces can grow and evolve, and then you could have a masterpiece on your hands. Your magnum opus, if you will.
Okay. When you're doing something like that, with the different ideas, do you ever find yourself going back and an idea that you originally thought would be great for book one, you end up finding it would fit really well in book three?
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave like the huge hole in book one. But then you go to book two, and you pull that one, and you put that one there, and then you find yourself with only 2 books because you've
taken the chunks out of them and put them in. Yep.
So you've gone from having 3 completely original ideas to only having 2 because you've morphed that second one into.
Yep, that could definitely happen. The one thing that's great about that, instead of having the 3 and now that you've got the 2, is now those 2 are better. So you had 3 which were maybe like really good, but now you've got 2 that have become kind of almost like more condensed. So now you had 3 and now you have 2. So now you have less books, but you have more content. You have maybe better content. So that doesn't have to be a bad thing.
What do you feel about character mapping?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Highly recommend, yes.
But what I mean by that is,
writing out their personal characteristics.
yeah, you have your name. You know what his personality is going to be like. So you put down the name, the age,
Definitely.
the height, eye color, hair color.
It really creates a great
every
visual.
little thing you can see.
Descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I've gone so far as putting like what cologne the person
Yeah.
would wear.
So they can almost smell it.
Exactly.
Out of that book, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep.
'Cause
Nothing wrong with that at
I
all.
know you said something about you being a fan of.
The more visual you can make it, the
Writing.
more engrossed in the book they're going to be. Yep. Definitely.
So you've had a good you have a good imagination, and you like to dream. I mean,
Very much so. I think that might be one of my greatest reasons to be a writer, is because since I was little to now, I'm still a very big imaginative person, and I think a lot of the times the kids get medicated when they have that, because they're usually, when they have the imagination, their mind's kind of running rampant, so they got to slow it down with the Ritalin. I played that game back decades ago too, and unfortunately with the Ritalin, what that'll do is that might slow you down to where you should be, but as far as I'm concerned, the creativity out the window. So it's like now you have the blessing and the curse. You either take it and deal with it and have that creativity as a bonus, or you just flatline yourself into just total nothingness, total boringness, if you will, with an affliction like that. So it's kind of like a draw, You either take it and learn from it and benefit from it, or you just even yourself out completely. That's something I've never wanted to do, because I find that when I'm writing, I'm feeling my best. So I would never have anybody medicate to fix something when they've got something that's hiding in there that they can really extract. The power of creation. It's an incredible tool. She does. My wife actually reads them, and her mom reads them. And her mom, it's great because her mom is actually a really big fan of my stuff too, and she shares links. If I post it, like so let's say I post a page, if I were to write a page, and I've done this in the past, I'll write pages in Facebook that are called notes, and you can write a whole page and hit submit, and those pages will end up in what's called your notes. And you can take that link and put it on somebody's page, and it'll say, something or other, page 1. They can say, hey, click on that. And then if they enjoyed it, they can give it a thumbs up. Or they can say, hey, you got a typo in paragraph 1. This is really great because they can do your editing for free. Hey, you got a typo and you wrote then, and it was supposed to just be the. No, I didn't. Oh, look at that. Fixed. So that's a great resource too. Is if you're comfortable with the people reading your stuff, when you put it out there, it's a great resource for that. Say, hey, you messed up on this part right here. Oh, thanks. Fixed. Then you can go back into that note and edit it. And then at the end of the day, you can just copy paste all your Facebook notes back into your Microsoft Word on a whole different thing. Now that everybody's gone through and edited your whole book page by page, bam, you just got yourself a book. Submit it to the publisher, and you can get your books for $10 plus ship. That ain't bad. Sell them for $13, $15 or whatever, and make a couple bucks, for each book you sell. That ain't bad. It's not bad. Supplemental income. I mean, as a writer, I don't think any of us are going to get particularly rich. That's kind of one of the little caveats, but to me, I mean, it's all about the creation. Stephen King went on record between 3 days and a week ago and said, if you're not reading, you shouldn't be writing. And while I can agree to that to a point, that's someone else said if you're that'd be like being a musician who isn't listening to music. And I have to disagree, because if you're a musician, clearly you can listen to music. Music doesn't. I can drive my vehicle from here to Timbuktu listening to music. I can't be reading while I'm driving, or neither can I be writing while I'm driving. So writing is a whole complete focus all on its own. I can drive while listening to music, so I think that kind of little fight that they had was moot, it's like, musician can listen to music, music, I can do my job and listen to my headphones at work, but I try to read as much as I can. But for me, I have to disagree with Stephen King, because I'm much more of a creator. I love to create. I love the joy it is to pen a whole story with really great characters and put it out there, rather than, I mean, I can read something and then accidentally, subconsciously use what they wrote in my own book. That's not good either. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that, don't even realize, hey, I'm putting your work into my work. And, that's a problem. That loses all originality. So reading other works can hinder your own work. So I like to just, being a writer, that's probably a horrible thing to say, because I should be reading, but I read a lot of different things. Mostly like, political blogs or what have you, things like that. Things that, spark my interest. But I definitely think that, cavemen, like I said, since the dawn of time, have wanted to create. They didn't have anything to read from. They didn't have anything to read. They're communicated in clicks and grunts, so they didn't have anything that they could read and learn from. So they were creating their own stories. So. Probably makes you think of the Crudes, maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it yet.
Here's my new invention. It's called a hug. Yeah. Most of us have seen that, I think. I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. We've seen that dozens of times. It's called a snapshot.
For starting out writing, especially, you have an idea and you know that parts of it are not very, are well used. Yeah, if you know your idea is well used, is it still, I mean,
Like cliche, you mean, or?
yeah, even if you're decent, I mean, have written a lot, is it? I guess is it sometimes worth doing
Sure.
to write it? I know obviously I haven't written much, so but you don't want to have a reputation of doing that all the time.
I wouldn't probably do it all the time, like vampire movies or something. It's still fun to like. I think for me, like when I wrote a horror book. I think it came out in '09. This is a book. I have one called Evil Elliot. It's basically like a cross between The Omen and Chucky, and that came out in '09. But I wrote that book back when I was 13. Refound it in a Rubbermaid container. Revamped everything that was in there from pretty much 20 years later, and retooled everything. I mean, my character maps in there were literally way one-dimensional. Literally like cardboard talking to cardboard. It was embarrassing. But you realize that when you're 20, 30. Not so much you don't realize it when you're like 13. So I'm writing what I think are books, and it's 10 pages of college roll paper. That's not a book. But to me, that was a book for my comprehension. So now I'm writing books that are hundreds of pages long, and I'm still wondering if that's good enough. But I think you can write a book without getting too long-winded about it, to write a book that's between 100 pages and 300 and call it a day. Without getting too, you know what I mean? You see Stephen King writing books that's like 650, 800 pages. To me, I'm not much, like I said, I'm not the biggest reader, and I look at a book that's like this, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I shouldn't think that, because it's probably a great book, but it's just like, I'm like, can I really invest in all that? Do it? Like, in the days of smartphones and technology, I look at a book that's like that, and I'm like, nope. So, it's kind of what we become, but I mean, we have so many things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis that it's distracting to have to read a book I'd rather be writing a book that's half this size than reading one that's, reading a book that's like 3 inches thick. I mean, that's an investment. That's a big book to read. Some people could probably read that book in maybe a week. Not me. It took me probably a year to read. I'd read a couple pages at a time and be like, falling asleep here.
3 to 4 hours.
Yeah. I read the whole Harry Potter trilogy in 2 days. I'm like,
That's pretty much me.
yeah. Well, see, that's a great series, though. It's a great series.
600-page books, 3 hours.
See, that's another thing, though. When you write great content, you can get away with having a 700-page book, and people will just be like, when's the next one? I just wrote a 700-page book. Yeah, when's the next one coming up? Like, I just finished that. Like, my publisher just wrapped that book, but the fans are hungry, and that's so great. Nothing better. Nothing better than the fans being hungry for your work. Like, I mean, look at Game of Thrones. Those books are between 600 and 600 pages, 1,000 pages. He just sits there and just writes them all day. I think he's probably one of the ones that can sit there and literally his fingers will just go crazy. And he's just like, okay, I'm a vessel, just let me know when you're done. And then the fingers will go up, okay. They could step away, go get himself a cup of coffee, whatever. It'd be awesome to just be able to sit and write. With little ones, it's hard to do that. But, man, so much fun. So much fun to write when you get caught up in a really good piece of your writing. You don't want to stop till that idea gets closed, and you can go off and do what you were doing without fear of being like, oh, I don't want to forget what I was writing.
wake up in the middle of the night with an
No.
idea? No?
Nope. Unfortunately not. Do you write it down though? I definitely
Oh, yeah,
recommend writing
yeah.
it down. I'm a pretty deep sleeper. Like my wife's mom is living with us at the moment, and she'll come home at 2-3 in the morning, and she could be a crazed burglar or something and kill me, and I wouldn't even know it. She sleeps across the hall from us. I'd be like, I'll just be laying there. She comes up the steps, and the steps are creaky, like out of a horror movie. Like, creak, 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 creak.
It's good.
And I don't hear anything. I mean, that's horrible.
No, it's good.
It's good for me though, because I'm a sound sleeper. Unless the baby's in the bed, then maybe not. Her sleeping orientation is like a Nazi sign, you know. She kind of, I'm like, you gotta slim her down, you know. You gotta lay in the middle. And she likes to move and
Yeah.
wobble around, and oh, yeah. We have a little playpen for her that she sleeps in, and she'll hear a weird noise or something in the middle of the night. She'll stand up at the edge of it and scream. And of course, I'm a deep sleeper, so usually it's my wife who gets to deal with that. Unfortunately, I'm like, hold on, and then like if she's had enough of that, she'll wake me up. What's going on? The baby's up again. Okay, I'll take care of it. So just stand there and scream. Yeah.
So, how much, or can you talk about how your personal experiences and so forth relate with your imagination and how that works together?
Oh yeah. Let's see. I've had a lot of crazy stuff happen in my life. We had when I was about 15, my uncle was murdered in a town adjacent to the one we were living in, and that spurred me to go and live with my mom in Lansing. And from there, I started taking more interest in my writing, kind of getting away from, the reality of my uncle being murdered and stuff. So it lets you kind of go off into another world that where everything is kind of safe, where you can think about anything, write about anything, and just kind of create. You got people in your family that are being destroyed, and you can create and mold, ideas out of just on paper, and just write things and just kind of get lost. Like when we had the miscarriage back in 2012, I was able to just sit down and just get lost in my writing because it was a safe kind of haven. It's a great place to go if you got issues that are going on. Just go to that pen and paper and just totally zone out. I didn't want to. I probably shouldn't have, because I had other obligations to deal with. But it's just a great escape to be able to just sit down and just kind of put yourself in a world that is a safe place to go to, and you can dot the landscape with really colorful characters, put people in your position, and you can kind of learn from your own experiences by putting your characters in those experiences and letting them kind of flesh out what they do. It's really fun to do.
Therapeutic?
Very therapeutic. Definitely.
So do you think your imagination leads you, or you lead your imagination?
I think my imagination leads me. To me, I think I've kind of discovered that I've become kind of the vessel to my imagination. When my imagination comes up with something, says, "Hey, write this down." I'm like, okay. I'm almost like, if you were to say, I'm almost a slave to my imagination. Like my imagination is probably the single most thing that drives me.
The out of control dragon or something.
Yeah.
Here, hanging out by the tail.
Yep. It presents me with ideas that basically, maybe I shouldn't say slave, because it presents me with ideas though that I really, really like. So I wouldn't say I'm just kind of at a whim to just do whatever whatever it says, but they come to me and I find them really, really enticing. Like when you get a really great proposal, the boss comes and says, "Hey, how about that raise today?" It's like, yeah, you get an idea that's just so great, that's so over the top, and you're just like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And I just, I'll scribble it down, I'll write it on whatever I can write it on.
So these stimuli to your imagination, do they kind of come at random, or
Yeah.
do you try and absorb things that will?
A little bit of both. A lot of things just kind of come to me. Like a lot of things will just kind of hit me out of thin air. Like I could just be running a machine at work and think of something. Like today, for example, I thought of something because I've been trying to. Also, I'm a songwriter. Also, I don't play any instruments or anything, but I compose lyrics, and I would like to put those lyrics to music. But one of the things that I was listening to instrumentals, and I was like, I had a great idea for a wedding song that hit me out of the blue. Was don't just for my wedding song was called "Don't Just Stand By Me, Stand With Me." A lot of the wordplay again, with don't stand just by me, next to me, but stand with me. Stand with me in terms of like on the things that we're going to do together. Like stand with me on how we raise our kids. Stand with me on how we do our finances, so on and so forth. It's kind of poetic in a way. And I was like, man, I gotta write that down. And I there was no paper, but I had a black Sharpie, and I ran over and I ripped off a piece of cardboard from a box and wrote it on there, put it in my pocket. But when you think of an idea that's so great that just grabs you by the coattails, you gotta write it down. So I'm gonna make a song of that, and hopefully at some point I can put it to music.
Nothing in particular stimulated that. It just kind of.
It just came.
Popped up.
They do. They're like it's like a sudden rain. You're just walking along, bam, there it is, and you just like I said, you got to be the vessel. You got to be.
So you're kind
If
of
you think it's good,
ready for it at all times.
be ready for it. Yeah. Yeah. If it hits you, just be ready to write it down. If it ends up to where you feel like it's going to bear any kind of fruit, write it down. If it's something that you think about and you're like, that's not very good. How can I improve on that? Then you just forget about that and it just kind of fizzles out. But you get a good idea and you just want to run with it.
Can you talk about the relationship between intuition and imagination?
Yeah, we could go there. Intuition being
a sense of things that are real or just outside of what we know and yet become real or become
like just in terms of like the writing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good example. Intuition against what? What was it?
Well, when someone intuits something, that means they have a sense of something that is just outside their imagination, and yet
Oh, okay.
their imagination helps them get there or something. Or
Okay.
how much of it is imagination and how much of it is intuiting something that's real, and how does that
That's a good
work
question.
together, kind of on the periphery of
Maybe
perception?
like a 50-50 even, like kind
I
of
don't know. Are people different or
based on experience maybe.
yeah?
Like based on life experiences, like how different experiences mold people in different ways. Like
Mhm.
like if a bad experience does something to somebody, they might see something differently.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was maybe like pro-abortion and they had and then they had one, but then they decided that they didn't want to ever have anything to do with that again,
Mhm.
kind of thing, where they take an experience and learn from it.
Right.
Hmm.
Something where they're thinking they know, but then they find out something different, and
A lot of conflict.
how much of that is imagination and how much of it is a sense of something that
that is a good question.
well, it's peripheral
Yeah.
to our perception. I don't know.
See, I like to write a lot of conflict like that, like a lot of contrast,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't know if you were in here when I was talking about my one book called Passionate Kiss, where the main story in this is based on a former classmate, kind of in a clique who has died based on from nursing a broken leg with painkillers, overdosed on these. So the guy is going to his former, shouldn't say former friend's house, but he's going to this girl who was in the clique that he kind of was a part of, you know, your little 4 or 5 people circles back in high school. Their high school friend, shortly before their 10-year high school reunion, friend had died from that. And her vehicle isn't working very well, so he has a brand new vehicle, and he's stopping over to her house so they can pay their newly deceased friend tribute. Well, he gets there to the house, and she's upstairs putting on makeup.
Yeah, I was here for that, yeah.
And he discovers she thinks he's asleep when he's looking at his tablet. He's got his tablet laying in his hand. It's black, like it's shut off, or it's a dark screen.
Right.
She comes out of the shower, and he can see that she's got the towel on her head and the towel on, but he can clearly see her face. She's got a black eye.
Right,
she's got a split lip and a purple on her face.
I did hear you talk about that.
So
when you came up with that, was that schooled by experience, or was that something you imagined through something you'd heard, or?
Just something I imagined. I really hate the idea of the domestic violence. You know, if you have to defend yourself against a person, you know, that's okay. You know, if somebody's threatening to take your life, but just to have domestic violence, because you know what? One of the biggest things in my writing I like to focus on is real life kind of happenings or occurrences that are really kind of very close to home. They're very relatable, and that's one of the things I love to drive, points I love to drive home, are relatable experiences. So it's an imaginative thing, but it's derived from the interest in keeping it relatable and also keeping it emotionally tied to my reader too. The more you can emotionally tie to your reader, the more seems like they'd be focused on it, on the material. That's just a theory. I may not even be right on that, but I've had a little bit of success.
Sounds like intuition, like you have a sense of your reader's.
And it's really good to know what your reader base is too. Knowing who it is that's reading your work
Do you do any
and what
research
ages.
on that?
What's that?
Do you do any research on that?
I haven't. I should though.
You get feedback though from your readers.
Yep.
Yeah.
On Facebook, my kind of research is a little bit limited. It's kind of limited and biased because it's only friends that I have mostly that are on my page. But I really want to open that up more, and I do have a fan page also, but I think I really should open it up even more, like in things like these, where I can gain more kind of insight to the type of things that I'm writing, and see what I always try to get an idea of what types of people like the work that I write. Like I'll notice, like if I write a blurb about a book that I'm writing, I like to see who's liking it. And 9 times out of 10, I think they said most of the readers that read the type of stuff that I'm writing are about 95% female. So I'm literally kind of pandering to a 95% female demographic. So to write anything that isn't kind of doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the best things I can advise is write to your demographic. If you're writing about car parts and lifting trucks, guy demographic probably all the way.
Women do a lot more reading than men do, I think.
Yeah.
Especially when it
They
comes
do.
to the more imaginative world.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's something really good to research too, because the more you research that, the better off you'll be as far as knowing who your readers are, what those readers' interests are, what they like to read, the type of content that they're willing to purchase.
What did you enjoy reading when you were young?
When I was young, books that sparked the imagination, like Bridge to Terabithia, Where the Wild Things Are.
Science fiction or history or
Ancient Egypt was a big one.
ancient Egypt. Oh.
Yeah, Ancient Egypt about mummification process. A lot of that. Found that really interesting.
I find it interesting that all over the world people see these dots in the sky that look like stars, but they move around differently. And everywhere in the world, they said, oh, that one, oh, that's a big old man with
Mhm.
a lot of children and grandchildren, and that one that's fast and young, and
Yeah.
and then the telescopes see that, well, yeah, that big old one does have a whole lot of moons that nobody can see, and the little ones have. Anyhow, it interests me of how much is that imagination, how much is intuition, and
Yeah.
where's that perception?
And that goes back to the beginning of the class too, about the storytelling from when I was talking about how we've had storytelling since the dawn of time,
Yeah,
where even the cavemen,
yeah,
you know, not in so much in just the clicks and grunts and how they would communicate, but in how they might take the animal blood on their finger and write stories on the wall, you know,
And
just
sing
almost like a
and
comic
dance
strip,
and,
even
yeah.
maybe.
mhm,
And then how they would probably tell stories about the night sky and how this
Mhm.
star looks like, you know, Zeus or something,
yeah.
and how this one looks like something
And
else.
then have it come out to be kind of accurate about
Yeah.
how it really is,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of intriguing to me.
Absolutely.
How'd they do that? And what are we doing that's similar?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're building this thing up here in MSU with this colliders of particles, and
Yeah.
who thought of that? Well,
Yeah.
you know, what got that going? Anyhow,
Yeah.
very interesting to me that, life is very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think she's kicking us out.
Yeah, I think so.
We getting close?
We
yeah.
got, so we got a warning.
Yep.
Did you want some crackers?
Who's up for a
Yeah,
picture?
thank you. We're right down
He
here.
brought them in, so.
Anybody?
Come on.
There you go.
What?
Who's up for a picture? Anybody?
Picture?
Sure.
Of I think they said they were gonna put it in the flashes on Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah.
If anybody wants to.
Do you wanna sit here and I'll take a group picture?
Look, I
Good
can take.
idea.
Sure.
I'll do
Come
it.
over here and I'll take a group picture.
Well, we want you in it.
He doesn't want to be in it. That's why.
That's right. Ooh, we're gonna do it this way. Oh, yeah, great idea.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Excellent.
How about the old kneecap?
Awesome.
Fabulous. Okay, everybody say vacation.
Vacation.
Wow. Did it do it? I don't know.
I can say.
I touched it and all kinds of circles appeared and
I
everything.
thought money was supposed to come out for vacation.
There we go.
can you do that?
I hit that. Is
Is
that
there a phone that
right?
does
I think
that?
there's a cash out button.
Which one?
The
middle
gray
one,
one,
right?
yep.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
all these, okay, we'll do another one. We'll do one more, one more.
Done.
One more. Okay, oh, marvelous. Vacation. Well, I didn't hear a click, but something happened. Okay, there we go. That had to have done it. I saw things light up. That had to be good.
Oh, so she's kicking
I
us
have a
out.
question. When people hold up their hand like this, how many people have the little finger reach past the last line?
Of
Let's see.
the fourth finger?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
it's
you
close.
do.
It reaches up to it.
Yes.
I
Oh,
do.
way past.
Tiny hands.
Let's see you. Oh, yeah, you got the
These are
quickness.
short.
I need to look real quick
You
here.
got some?
Yep.
Here.
I know.
I'll share with
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're the sensitive one.
You looking for a long lost child?
Oh, this is a creative, see that there, that's creativity.
What do I got?
Um,
Anything good?
that's-
If anybody needs my number, did I give you my number at all? We will hash that out.
Let's see.
Hey,
Did you get
Oh,
any
yeah.
goldfish?
He was unsensitive.
I did not get a.
I will leave them there.
That was not
I'm not worried
obvious.
about you at all. Your effectiveness keeps growing.
Hope everybody enjoyed. What's up?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. What's up?
How,
You're kind of short, aren't you?
Did I see yours a second?
if you have a strong plotline with 8
Miss
characters,
it? Okay.
He's
and like
right-handed?
vice versa, if you have like strong characters and weak plotline, how do you merge those two? Because
I will help you.
Hold it together.
A lot of energy. Hard to manage all that. Anyhow, thanks again, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Lisa.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Love
I'm
one.
a musician, but my ex-wife was an artist. She had a gallery down
Stevie King.
in Old Town. very good watercolors.
Well, it would be, if I read.
I've just fed
I
off
like
some of that.
Stephen King.
So are you still up?
I've been
musician
really
or-
into dangerous lately though.
Playing
Yes.
band, but
Odd Thomas.
not with
Yes.
parts.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness, I
If you
love
went to a
that.
musician,
Right,
just
gotcha.
get, you know.
Oh,
keep
fine,
it
what's that?
going.
I read
Yeah.
Stephen King's
No, I
Under
never
the
read.
Hill
Beyonce's
in
the
a week and a
drummer.
half.
And he had a band, and they
402?
used to come over to the house all
I
the
don't
time,
like
and they
reading
practiced
songs.
them.
497.
And it was,
Thank you.
Yep.
and they did pretty good, they did some gigs and stuff like that.
Thank you for coming out.
His dad was a drummer, and
Thank you
he
so much.
traveled and did a lot of openings for a lot of bands and stuff like that, so. it was pretty
No,
fantastic.
I played with the LCC Big Jazz Band, and that's about it.
We can leave those for them,
Yeah.
because we love them.
Awesome.
And your last name again?
Was Krupa.
Don't forget about your camera.
Krupa. Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay, don't
Krupa.
forget-
Thank you for coming out. Yep. Krupa, just like Gene Krupa, the drummer, and Krupa's Boat Mart, but without the money.